So this was a problem from the homework. A cake recipe calls for 2 parts butter to 3 parts sugar. How much butter goes with 4.5 cups sugar? So one way to work this problem was how I did in class and say, okay, we've got two entities here, butter and sugar. And we're wondering butter versus sugar. So we can make a little table that says butter and sugar and say, okay, I know that if there's 2 parts butter, that goes with 3 parts sugar. And I'm wondering if there's X amount of butter, what is the amount of butter that goes with 4.5 cups of sugar? So 2 is to 3 as X is to 4.5. And now we've set up this little proportion that I can just isolate my variable by multiplying both sides by 4.5, and I can find the value for X. What I want you to notice is that this column came from the recipe. And this column, both of these numbers, came from the question, the scenario in the question. So we have this alignment where both of the tops were butter, both of the bottoms were sugar. Both of the left-hand side were from the recipe, and both of the right-hand side were from the unknown, or the scenario that we're looking for. Now, what I want to show you is that this is one way to solve it. I multiply both sides by 4.5. I get X equals 2 over 3 times 4.5, and I can solve for what that is. I could also say, okay, in the recipe, I have 2 cups of butter, and that goes with 3 parts of sugar. And then in the question, I have an unknown amount of butter that goes with 4.5 cups of sugar. So you could say that the ratio of butter to butter in the recipe to butter in the question, is 2 over X, and that would be equal to 3 over 4.5. As long as my butters align, my sugars align, my recipe aligns, and my question aligns. X goes with 4.5, 2 goes with 3. Both of these are in units of butter. Both of these are in units of sugar. This is a valid way to set it up. So it turns out this is A and this is D. Both of those in the homework are correct setups. I find this one to make more sense because I end up with the units of butter over sugar, and it seems like sort of a rate. And as long as my units on the left match my units on the right, butter over sugar and butter over sugar, I'll usually remember to lump the recipe with the question data. This one gets a little more confusing to a lot of people because I'm taking butter over butter equals sugar over sugar. But technically, this proportion is entirely equivalent to this proportion. I have to flip it to start solving it, but I end up with X equals 4.5 over 3 times 2. So 4.5 times 2 over 3, 4.5 times 2 over 3. They're the same value because these equations are equivalent. So I'm just going to warn you now, I will frequently swap between which setup I like to do, whether I align my recipes horizontally versus my entities vertically, or my entities horizontally and my recipes or whatever vertically, because it doesn't matter. As long as 2 goes with 3 in some sense, in this case, they're both from the recipe, and 2 goes with X in some sense, in this case, they're both butters. And it's actually a good double check to make sure that 2 goes with 3 because they're from the recipe, 2 goes with X because they're both butter, that they have something in common. 2 butters and 4.5 sugars have nothing in common. They're not from the same recipe or scenario, and they're not the same entity. So we just need to make sure that these two are never in the same vertical or horizontal row of our table. Hope that helps.